Welcome to the Wellness Project with Des. I'm your host, Des, a mental health therapist and holistic wellness coach. On this podcast, I bring you conversations with experts in mental health and wellness, along with powerful firsthand stories from those who have navigated their own mental health journeys. Together, we explore practical tips, tools, and strategies to support your well being, offering hope, encouragement, and inspiration along the way. I'm so grateful that you're here. If you enjoy the show, I'd love for you to take a moment to leave a review on iTunes and rate the podcast 5 stars on Spotify. Your support helps the Wellness Project with Des to grow, bringing even more incredible guests and valuable insights to our community. And make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss a thing. Enjoying the podcast? Stay tuned until the end to find out how you can support the show and ways we can work together. Now let's dive in. Hey there, I'm your host Des, and you are listening to episode number 198. And on today's episode, I am speaking with Katherine Fabrizio, and she's here today to talk with us about something called the good daughter syndrome. She is going to break down what the good daughter syndrome is, including its signs, traits, and symptoms, how it manifests in other areas of your life, in friendships, romantic relationships, in your work, and how you can recover from the good daughter syndrome. Now, when I say the good daughter syndrome, you may have a pretty good idea already what this means, but Katherine describes it as when societal good girl conditioning and a fraught mother-daughter relationship collide, you get the good daughter syndrome, which is a relentless drive to meet impossible standards and suppress your true self. If you've lived your life hyper aware of your mother's emotions, working tirelessly to soothe her moods while neglecting your own, you understand the weight of the good daughter syndrome. It's a silent, relentless burden, anticipating her needs, smoothing over conflicts, and never quite feeling like you're enough. And that is basically the foundation of the good daughter syndrome, never feeling like anything you do is ever good enough to please your mother. If you struggle with the relationship with your mother, or you have with your mother that is maybe no longer with you, I think that you're going to get a lot out of this episode because, like I said, this manifests in other areas of our lives. So tune in. I think you're going to learn a lot. Help me welcome Katherine. All right, everyone. I am here with Katherine Fabrizio. Katherine, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I think it's going to be a great one. We are talking all about the good daughter syndrome. So, before we get into that, I would love if you can take some time to introduce yourself, share who you are, how you discovered the good daughter syndrome, how you got into working with people that experience these things, and maybe defining it for us. I think that'd be a great place to start.
Okay, super. I am a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter. About 30, 35 years ago, if we time travel for a bit, you would find me having just completed my graduate work. I was married to a nice man. I had two beautiful children, and I thought I had everything that I wanted. I would add, I was in practice. I had just gone into private practice with my psychotherapist, psychologist mother. But I found myself paralyzed with depression. I didn't really know what I thought about anything. I knew, though, in a nanosecond what she thought and if she was okay with me and if she was okay. So, like any good psychotherapist, I got into psychotherapy to figure this out. And like I said, that was 30, 35 years ago. And I found out that I was in a really oppressive relationship with my mother, what I later came to call the good daughter syndrome. Since that time, I have seen women in psychotherapy. And you know how when you start to talk about something, somehow people make it to your door. But so I have seen sort of every variation on this theme. Way back when I walked into my mom's office that we shared, and with my heart in my throat, I said, Mom, I've got to leave home. I'm leaving the practice. It was a practice that had been her dream, a mother daughter practice. And I knew it would break her heart, but I knew staying would break me. So I left, and it was the first of many junctures in breaking myself away from this dysfunctional dynamic. And like I said, since that time, I've seen kind of every variation on the theme. And so I can not only speak to my experience, which has, of course, been very informative, but speak to clients that have made their way to my office. And since writing a book and having courses and stuff like that, I've had a lot of women come to me with various questions and different parts along the journey. If you're wondering if that name kind of catches your imagination, you think, good daughter syndrome. A good way to tell if you are struggling or in it is if you're the empathetic, attuned, sensitive daughter of a difficult mom. So, what do I mean by difficult? You might know that she's narcissistic or borderline or struggles with addiction. However, you might not. There are lots of spectrum. People are on the spectrum in many ways. But you would know if your primary emotional relationship is mom. If when you make a decision, you need to check in with what she thinks. If you can't be settled and okay unless mom's okay and okay with you, if you're always working to meet her approval and it never comes, there's more to say about that. But if you kind of resonate with that and think, gosh, this might be me, well, that's what we can talk about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that. With people feeling like
Mhm.
I'm having an emotional reaction to this, how can we further kind of understand if we're being impacted by this? Like, how does this dynamic, how does this manifest
Mhm.
for daughters? What kind of traits, what kind of things do they struggle with mental health wise? I'm sure a lot with boundaries. I'm sure it carries over into other relationships, romantic relationships, careers. So, how does this look for good daughters?
People pleasing, codependent, always putting other people first. I would say the women that come to me say they're just exhausted. Usually if somebody says, well, I'm not in contact with my mother anymore, or I really struggle in my relationship, people will say, oh, what did she just say one thing wrong? Or is she kind of stuck in some older ways of thinking and you're being judgmental? I think that can be what flashes in people's minds. But if you're actually in this position, you have been trying since childhood to please her. One way of looking at it is she is emotionally immature, frequently dysregulated. Do you look underneath the personality disorders and just describe the way that mom is? And so when you're an attuned daughter, you have learned throughout time and throughout development in ways you're not even conscious of. You don't rock the boat. You try to make good grades, possibly dress in a way that pleases her and reflects well on her. And in my case, there are three people in the marriage: my husband, myself, and my mother. She weighed in on every decision. She gave advice, wanted or not. And I didn't think, as frequently daughters don't, like, that's your mother. Don't you want to please her? Don't you want her to be happy with you and be proud of you? The truth is in the nuance. I think, of course, mostly every child wants her parent to be pleased with them. But when they make that kind of the primary focus of all of their efforts and they can't feel quite good enough, like it's never good enough. Frequently, you'll see imposter syndrome. So somebody on the outside will look very successful, make straight A's, be pleasing, but underneath it all, they may feel like they're imposter. They're just kind of waiting to be found out. Usually good daughters struggle with eating disorders. Not all good daughters struggle with eating disorders, but a lot of women who struggle with eating disorders are good daughters. and the field calls it acting in. We're not the ones that are causing all the trouble. We're the ones who exhaust ourselves trying to make other people happy. You want me to go into kind of narcissistic and borderline moms, how that fits in with the personality disorders?
Yeah, I think that would be great because I think that, like you said, doesn't have to be narcissistic or borderline personality disorder, but I'm sure a lot of people will relate to that, and especially daughters that do grow up with a mother that has these
Mm,
personality disorders, maybe even bipolar disorder, like you said, just emotional dysregulation. I think that would be
yeah.
really helpful.
Okay, so to understand a mom who's narcissistic, most people understand a narcissist as somebody who brags, who's self centered, who is vying for attention. But mothers pretty much know what is socially acceptable. So you're going to find a lot more covert narcissistic moms. They still need to be right, they need to have the attention on them, they need to be superior, but sometimes they'll do it through their daughters. So you get maybe the PTA president who is micromanages her daughter in private and maybe is very critical of the daughter with issues like behavior or weight, partner choice, that kind of thing. And so the world doesn't see a braggart. Sometimes they do, but that's kind of rare. A mother who at her core is empty. So a narcissist is really empty, and their defenses have developed, or their coping mechanisms have developed to guard against falling into this vat of emptiness. So they will appear as though they have it all together. They're very concerned with the way that things look. And for women, the way that their family looks, the ways that their daughter looks. And so they'd be hypercritical of the daughter. Kind of a telltale sign is when mom always has to be right. She can never give it to you. She can never say, well, I guess you know more about this subject than I do. And she can't give you a genuine apology, because a genuine apology involves kind of taking a hit to your self esteem, and it involves humility. So somebody who can say, I'm sorry and mean it, it's not a narcissist. If she says, I'm sorry, but you, or I'm so sorry, I guess I'm just a horrible mother if you have any complaint against me. So that's kind of the picture. Her wound is unworthiness. Inadvertently, many times doesn't even know she's doing it. Make her daughter feel the unworthiness that she doesn't want to feel. And she'll move the goalposts, like daughter will say, well, I brought him straight A's. I never rock the boat. I never cause you any trouble and never bring shame upon the family. But mom's always fixing, bettering, suggesting. The daughter's exhausted, can't ever get it right. At the heart of borderline disorder, her wound is abandonment. A daughter who is doing what's natural. Children bond and then they break away and take little steps towards independence. So if mom's wound is abandonment, she's going to feel extremely threatened by a daughter's natural trajectory to break away. In all the little ways we do that, we individuate by developing our own musical taste. Say, like when we're a teenager, we pick our own friends. Later on, we pick our own occupation or major in college or in the neighborhood that we want to live in, or our spouse. A mother who struggles with borderline personality disorder or is high in those traits, she's going to be triggered her abandonment wound. So she bonds with the daughter. And many times these moms can be incredibly empathetic. Well, both moms can be charismatic. It can feel really good when you're in the good graces. We know when the sun is shining and you're making mom look good and you two are best buds. You're dressed just like your mother as a little girl and you want to be her when you grow up. And then the natural trajectory starts, let's say in elementary school, mom's still picking your friends, mom's dictating whether you take dance or ballet or piano. She's like micromanaging. And then I like to say, with both these disorders, adolescence is normally a tense time. Everybody knows that. But when it's full out Armageddon and mom goes to war with your individuality. A narcissistic mother does it because she wants power over her daughter and she feels like she's losing control. Borderline mom feels threatened. Oh no, she's no longer mine. She's breaking away. You have, epic battles over boys and clothes and sexuality and grades. Again, it's in the nuance. It's a psychological test for mom to let go. And as a mother of grown children, y'all can't see me, but I'm a grandmother. And so I've gone through this. It hurts. It's so, oh, my little sweet child who hung on my every word. Now everything I say kind of gets on their last nerve and I can't say anything right. I mean, that hurts. But if you hold in your mind, they're becoming their own person. This is a really important developmental phase. I can't squash it or go to war with it because that would harm something so essential that they're going to need in their adult life. It's not easy for moms to get it right. And I'm kind of two minds. Some people think I'm not hard enough on mothers. I get emails, oh, your mother's terrible, just go no contact, no looking back. And then I get emails, how dare you attack mothers? We're doing the best that we can. Both sides have something to say, but I think you can find a middle ground between just denying any harm and excusing it, which you're only going to pass on, going to war with any problem that your mother has at all. There's a very important middle ground, and we're at a sea change. Mothers and daughters are going through, I think, an understandably difficult time. There's a lot of tension, but not all of it's bad because we're empowering our daughters and we're saying, be your own person. We're not grooming you to be pretty for somebody else and play a subservient role in the culture. Be careful what you ask for or be ready to handle it, to do some growth yourself. That's a whole mouthful, but
Yeah, no, this is great. There's so much here. I have so many questions. So, if somebody realizes that they're trapped in this good daughter syndrome, they have a
yeah,
toxic mother, whether narcissistic or not, but there's toxic
yeah.
traits there, what can they do to start to break away or gain some freedom from this with the mother being so difficult, wanting that control? I know something you talk about a lot is guilt, which I think is a really important topic to talk about too. What keeps daughters in this place?
What we all want to do is jump to action and have it be decisive. Like when I went in and, told my mother I needed to leave home, I was leaving the practice. I would love to say that's all I ever had to say, and it was just happily ever after. But it was really the first juncture. I would say 80% of it is the internal work, finding your own voice, looking back, preferably with a therapist, educating yourself, but looking back at these different junctures in development, I think is so important. How did it go when you first went off to kindergarten? Did you have stomach aches? Did you come home a lot? That's how separation anxiety shows itself. Later on, were you able to choose your own friends? In adolescence, how did it go and what was your reaction? I talk about in the book, there are 4 unconscious agreements that I would say our survival brain makes. So, mom, if she did, a decent job at all, she kept your hand off a hot stove. She kept you from running into traffic. When she was upset, you did everything you could to help her gain her equilibrium so life would be okay. And so you've had this history of putting mom's needs. Well, first she did take care of you. Hopefully, you didn't starve. You made it to this point. So she did do some things. So it's really so hard to upset that apple cart. Usually, guilt is kind of a binary feeling, like it's a physical feeling. So when we feel guilty, our cognition goes, "Well, I am guilty." Well, what are you guilty of? Are you guilty of harming another person? Like if you say, Mom, I don't want to come, or my husband and I are going to go to the in laws this Thanksgiving. They use that as an example. And you're terrified to make that phone call and let her know. And you hear, thunk, nothing on the other end. And mom goes, well, I don't know what I did wrong. You know, she gives you some kind of pushback and you just feel awful. And if you're unprepared, you say, oh my God, I don't know what I was thinking, mom. Just forget I ever brought it up. Of course, we'll be there. I can say that because I did that a gazillion times. I made every mistake. That's when that kind of guilt takes over. So when you're going to set a boundary or set a new expectation, I would say you really want to talk through it. Understand if you have an unconscious agreement to be responsible for mom's emotional well being. And if I asked you, you responsible for mom's emotional well being? Most clients would say, well, no, I'm an adult and she's an adult. But then I might ask them, well, how free do you feel to tell her no or disappoint her? And if they say, ugh, I can't do it. It's not worth it. The pushback is too bad. It would be worthy to investigate. Do you have this unconscious agreement to be responsible for his, and probably because of good reason, because you've been doing it your whole life. You don't rock the boat. You don't upset mom. Or you might have the unconscious agreement that mom knows best. So whenever she criticizes you, woo, you take it to heart and you're unable to think, she may be threatened or she may need to establish her superiority over me. She needs to defeat me. She needs to be always right. That's a really painful thing to acknowledge. But once you do, then you're in a position to maybe let go of, okay, mom, for the most part, wants the best for me, but she's really threatened when I know more than she does. She can't let go of the criticisms. The other thing is you're internalized, is self-doubt. You can't make a decision. You're always second guessing yourself. You put off, you procrastinate. You're looking for the perfect decision that's going to make everybody happy. Could be that internalized mother, the mother that we carry around in our head, our inner critic. And maybe we're detached from our own sense of, is this the right thing? Or even, can I live through it if it's not the right thing? If you really feel like it's going to topple mom's world if you fail, then making decisions is going to be harder. If instead you reconnect with yourself and say, this is the best decision at this time. And if I fail, well, that won't be pleasant, but it'll just be feedback. The sky won't fall. Anyway, so that's what I call self-doubt trap. The other one's kind of the mixed message. Do you feel like you have to read mom's mind in order to not step in it? Because, again, women are socialized to appear supportive. So, does mom, on the one hand, say, oh, that's a beautiful dress. I wonder if it comes in a size larger? Or that's great, you got that promotion, but are you going to leave the kids in daycare all day? She could be just conflicted. So she might not even know she's sending these mixed messages, but they tend to make us feel ashamed and they tend to be implied. It's the shoulder shrug, it's the side eye, it's the raised eyebrow. And so our unconscious brain is communicating with her unconscious brain and signaling, this is not okay. Look sexy, not too sexy. Be assertive, but don't be aggressive. All these effed up messages we give women. And those messages come through the maternal line. And we have very complicated, I think most good daughters are very conflicted. We don't just read a blog post and go, oh, she checks all that, she's a narcissist. If you were like me when you were younger, I would read something and I would say, Mom, I mean, you're a psychologist. Like, look at this. You're the messed up one. Wouldn't you agree? And she was a smart woman. And I thought if I could just make the objective point, she would understand me and understand she should come over to my side of understanding. What I grew to realize over decades was that I really needed to be okay with myself and make the moves and the decisions and just inform her. I'm talking about like what neighborhood to move into, what type of psychotherapy practice, and just let her know instead of these disguised ways of trying to convince her, explaining, apologizing, which were really kind of disguised ways that I was really looking for her permission and approval. For a long time, I didn't get it. She just couldn't give it to me.
I think this is a great point, and a few things came up for me with this. So, you said like showing her the article or book or what
Yeah.
have you, and just look, this is you, right? And a lot of times, I think good daughters want to prove to their moms that these are the traits I'm seeing in you, and just knowing that with the relationship, mom is not going to change, right? Mom is not going to like see the light and say, oh, right, I'm doing all these things, I'm causing you to feel all these things, right? Just going and knowing that, like you said, it's a lot of internal work with yourself, and it's not really about changing the other person, because as much as we would like to, we cannot make other people change.
And I think that's just so hard for mothers and daughters because maybe we agree on so much and we think that intellect will be able to change her defenses, but defenses are very stubborn things. I mean, you might try, or I would even recommend trying and see what you get. But if she always has to be right, she's not going to see that she always has to be right and then be wrong about that one thing. If she needs the defenses to keep her sense of self intact, I think one useful image I have is that everybody's trying to go around and feel okay about themselves. And to the degree to which they're damaged or impaired, they need more external proof that they are okay. And the more rigid, the more less flexible they can be. And so it's not a head thing. You can't just talk somebody into it. You know, you can say, like I'll say what my kids have said to me. I grew up very much, mother would talk about weight and looks, and it would get on my last nerve, but I didn't really think too much of it. So, with my grown daughters, I would say, "Oh, the outfit looks so good on you." One's weight lifts and does all this kind of stuff. "Oh, your body is just so beautiful." So I was saying something positive. I have two daughters, and they both let me know, "Mom, we don't talk about how our body looks to other people." I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense." I'll tell you, it stung because I was in the wrong, but they were informing me. I wasn't insulting, so I thought I was doing the right thing. But they let me know, no, we don't do that anymore. Just why comment at all? So I can tell you some things like that. It stings. It's a narcissistic injury because I hold myself to a pretty high standard. I think I'm a good mom, and I think I'm a good feminist, and I think I'm all the things. So then, so it's not easy, but I think sometimes you can say if mom brings up weight, for instance, and say, kind of makes me feel uncomfortable when you talk about my weight. And then maybe she does it again and say, I brought this up. My weight's kind of off the table for discussion. And say she does it again. You say, you know what? I've asked you not to bring it up. You continue to do so. I'm going to leave. So you kind of get the nuance and the variation. You can work up to a point that you don't have to start off there. Oh, you mentioned, wait, we don't do that anymore. I'm leaving and maybe I'm never coming back. If these moms could know how much daughters want to have a good relationship, I mean, that's the thing I'm struck with. Every daughter really wants to have her mom in her corner. I get emails from moms, "Oh, you're destroying relationships." I'm like, "No, if you only knew how much your daughter wants to feel good with you, that in order for her to set some very strict boundaries, she must have been hurt pretty deeply. And if she goes no contact, she must be pretty devastated and has taken a huge loss for her own life. Maybe there are daughters out there that just want to cancel their mothers, but I haven't met any of them.
Why do you think it's so hard for daughters to implement any sort of boundaries with their mothers?
It's kind of like that iceberg. So I think you have cultural pressure, which can be different depending on what your cultural background is. I would even say the more patriarchal the culture is, the harder it is, because a lot of women are told you can't have power in life, but we'll give you power over your daughter. You can do anything you want with your children, specifically your daughter. I think some moms are oblivious. So then the daughter sets some sort of boundary or even thinks about it. And it may have conscious and unconscious ripples throughout her lifetime, throughout her mother's lifetime. I mean, you never know this intergenerational wounding. You are breaking a taboo that is mostly unconscious. You think, well, it's reasonable to set some sort of boundary. But, and here's kind of the tricky thing, if you reframe that pushback as data, so the more a boundary is needed, the less well it will be received. So the whole, when daughters, come to me, I've tried to set boundaries with my mother, but it doesn't work. She won't let me, which is what she's telling me is I need my mother's permission, which I understand, but that's where we need to start. Or she gets so upset, the cost is so great that it's not worth any freedom I might have gotten from that boundary. Well, difficult truth is when you go in there with any sort of boundary, you may be upending a whole rat's nest. No offense to rats, but rat's nest of, or bee's nest, a whole hornet's nest of unconscious agreements and implications. We're pretty smart, we daughters. We're not just making this up, but we know intuitively that it's going to upset the apple cart. Now, it may be just one example, but we know it stands in and symbolizes for so much, most of which you don't even know. You might even say, if, I don't know, class or education level or something is important in your family, you may say, how did grandma talk to you about school and how important education was? And you can kind of go in the back door or the side door. Or how was dating in your day? How did grandma and grandpa respond when you went out? You can get some data about sexuality. How did you dress or your musical taste? You can ask. Many times you'll unearth some trauma mom went through, which she may not have thought about. She may be horrified at your low necked prom dress, in high school, and genuinely like freak out and not know where it's coming from and surprising everybody, including herself. So if you think even being in therapy and talking about this stuff is still relatively new, it was, taboo for many, many years. Mental illness meant you were schizophrenic, you heard voices, you might end up in a mental institution and never get out. You don't know what these things are unearthing.
So, say someone's listening to this conversation
Yeah.
and they're really resonating and they're like, oh my gosh, this is me. I never realized it, right? What is your advice or any words of wisdom that you have for somebody that they don't even know where to start, what to do? They don't have a lot of boundaries with mom. Where would you
Yeah.
encourage someone to start?
Well, I do have a quiz. I'll just come out and say that if you look up the Good Daughter Syndrome quiz, if anything, it'll start you thinking, right? And it kind of like, does mom give you unsolicited advice? These kinds of things. It's not real nuanced, but it's nuanced enough. Then you can begin to educate yourself. I suggest my book. That's particularly the Good Daughter Syndrome. If you come out with like, no, I'm the rebel. I like gave up on mom a long time ago and I've gone my own way and that's who I am, then my book is not for you. My quiz is not for you. But there are some good books and things out there. I find that this adaptation is very different, that you can't lump it all into one thing. So they're good books that talk about narcissistic mothers and their daughters. My book is mostly about the dynamic, your response to how mom is, because you're the only one that really can change it. if you can work with a
Mhm.
therapist, because it does take time. Be gentle with yourself. Don't jump in with both feet and yeah, send mom the blog post or give her a list of demands. I would say unless, and I'll make a caveat. So as we know, all the things wrong with the difficult mothers are a spectrum. I've had this one particular client whose mother was very difficult. She was drinking and still picking up chips at AA. She was transporting the grandchildren while she was high. She would lie about anything. She would park in handicapped parking places. Needless to say, this was a mother that the daughter's not going to be able to work anything out with. And she needed to really get away from this mom as fast as she could. This mom was actively causing harm. Any involvement with her was not good. What you'll also find out, and I'll get to the good news, there's some bad news, is that usually if dad is still with mom and she's really difficult, he might be enabling and passive, and he might be hearing your complaints in private with you, but he may bail when you try to confront mom. You may even end up losing them both. Seen that happen. Everybody's kind of benefiting from your this primary role. You're being the one that makes mom feel better. If mom like calls you and uses you as her therapist, then if you put boundaries up, a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. It's going to upset the apple cart throughout the family system. You have to be prepared for that. However, and I will get to the good stuff, the dividends that working on this pays are huge because this is a primary template. You're like people pleasing, second guessing yourself, not being able to trust what people say. When you do work on on the relationship that form this template, all of a sudden you'll find your voice. You'll pick partners who aren't exploitive. You'll know who's a good friend. You'll stop doing all the work in all your relationships. You won't take crap off terrible bosses. When you can do work, it's the hardest work, but when you can do work on this core within your relationship with mom, it will pay off hugely. Like I like to say, with dividends. Even if it's you not being able to change her, but if it's to change you and become your own woman. I love that phrase. Knowing what you
Mhm.
think, looking out for yourself.
Yeah, so important, so powerful. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this, and it gives a lot of hope, right? Because I think a lot of people, a
Yeah,
lot of daughters feel trapped in these dynamics and these relationships. But I think this gives people a lot of hope that there is a lot to look forward to. There is a different dynamic that is possible.
there is. Where there are patterns, there are also solutions. So you're not alone. Most people say, I didn't know, I thought I was only one. What do you have, a video camera in, in my house? Like, how do you know these conversations? I'm like, because I lived it and I've heard all these women. So it's not just you. You're not too sensitive. You're not selfish. This dynamic is real, it exists.
Like I said before, I think so many people are going to resonate with this. So I think this was so helpful, such a great conversation. And I know a lot of people are going to want to find you in your book. So I would love if you could share where everyone can find you.
You bet. So I have a book on Amazon. All you have to remember is the good daughter syndrome. I'm Katherine Fabrizio, but the phrase is more important than me. Begin where you are and know wherever you are in the journey, even if it's just kind of shock and tears and oh my gosh, I feel some relief, but oh, I feel so bad because this thing is affecting my life. It's okay. There's nowhere to go but up.
Fantastic, everyone. I am going to put all of Catherine's links in the show notes. So, like she said, you can Google it, but you can go to the show notes as well. Catherine, thank you so much for being here and
Yes.
sharing all of this information about the good daughter syndrome. So important to put that out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. For detailed show notes, go to accordingtodez.com/, and then whatever episode number this is. So again, that's accordingtodez.com/episode number. If you'd like to work together, you can schedule a free coaching consult call, or you can join my Mindful Monday support group. Links are in the show notes. You'll also find a curated list of books written by or recommended by my amazing podcast guests on my Amazon storefront, so be sure to check that out. If you loved this episode, share it and tag me on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Wellness Project with Des. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment. For more wellness resources, you can visit my website, accordingtodes.com. There you'll find wellness blogs, expert interviews, and a wide variety of digital products like ebooks, audio meditations, and downloadable journals to support your mental health and personal growth. If you gain value from this podcast, consider supporting the show by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/The Wellness Project with Des. Your support helps the podcast to grow and allows me to continue bringing you incredible guests and valuable content. While you're at it, join my email list to stay in the loop on everything I have available for you. As a thank you, you'll receive a free downloadable coloring book with positive affirmations. I'd also love for you to join my Facebook community where we dive deeper into each episode with discussions, journal prompts, reflections, and mental health and wellness content. It's a supportive space, and I'm there daily. Come say hi. The link is in the show notes. And don't forget to check out my Redbubble shop. The Wellness Project by Des, my collection of mental health and wellness products, is designed to uplift and inspire. From fun and uplifting apparel to motivational notebooks and bags, you can browse the collection at my Redbubble shop and be sure to favorite my store because I'm always adding new designs. And if you have a custom idea, feel free to message me. I'd love to create something special for you. Thank you so much for being here. I'll be back soon with another episode, and until then, I hope you have a calm and peaceful week.